Welcome to another tutorial covering Corona game development step-by-step series. This is Dr. Brian Burton, and today we're going to be looking at the Star Explorer Part 2B. In this part, we're going to be examining the addition of moving our ship by being able to drag the ship across the screen, and we're also going to include the game loop, which will start placing asteroids onto the screen, which I'm sure everybody's looking forward to. Now, last time we added asteroids, or the mechanism to add asteroids to the screen. We also added the ability to fire shots from our ship as the person or the player taps on the ship, so we're able to do all kinds of fun things with that. We're now ready to handle moving the ship so that when the player touches and drags the ship, it is able to move to the left or to the right. So let's get started with that. Ship movement is going to be handled by a drag, and we need to create a function to handle the drag mechanism. So we've created a function. It's going to be called drag ship, and it will be receiving parameters based upon the touch from the player. When the player starts to drag the ship, the application will notify this function where the ship is currently located and what is actually being dragged. Now, we're only enabling this for the ship, but it would be possible that you could set up a game where multiple objects are dragged or drug around the screen. In this particular case, we're setting the ship equal to our event target, which is what the player has touched and started to drag, and we also need to know what phase the drag is in. There's actually 3 phases associated with any drag event. That's the begin, the moved, and the end or canceled phases. So let's handle each of those. First thing that we need to do is set the focus to the ship so that we're able to drag it around the screen without any problems, and we need to store what the initial offset value of the ship is for being able to do the movements across the screen. And we're just happen to be storing that offset in a variable that we're creating, touch offset x, and that is based upon the event location subtracted from the original location of the ship. And we're only going to be moving it to the left or the right. We're not going to allow the player to move it up and down, so we only need to be worrying about the X parameter. If your app or game is allowing the player to move up and down as well as left and right, then you also need to be concerned about the Y parameter in saving these variables. After the begin phase, we're no longer concerned about the original location of the ship. Now we're wanting to move it to its new location. To do that, we need to change the ship's X parameter, which controls its left and right movement. So we'll set ship equal to the new location, which is the event.x subtracted from the ship's original location, which was stored in touch offset x. The last phase is ended or canceled, and in that particular situation we need to return the control back to the normal stage away from the ship. And finally, we just need to tell the app that we've successfully completed the drag ship event. By returning true, we are keeping the application from accidentally propagating or creating multiple touch events for the ship. We only want one touch event happening at any given time. By returning true, we make sure that it does not propagate or create multiple touch events. So now that we have a drag ship possibility, let's add the event that will make this happen. And that's done with the ship, add event listener, touch. So the ship actually has 2 possible events associated with it. One is the touch, the other is the drag, and now we are able to drag the ship back and forth as well as touch it. Now, you cannot do both things at the same time. You cannot touch and tap, but you can touch, fire, and touch drags, and then if you tap, it will fire the shot. Now, most more complex games include some kind of a game loop. The game loop controls what's happening each iteration of the game. This may be done every frame, or 60 to 120 frames per second, or it may be done just occasionally in the background to maintain the control and flow of the game. Game loops are essential for more complex games. They need to iterate quickly and be fairly short and to the point, but usually they are calling multiple other functions to control the flow of the game. In our game, we're going to use the game loop to create new asteroids, and we're also going to use the game loop to check for any asteroids that have drifted off the screen so that they can be removed from memory. The first thing we're going to do in our game loop is create a new asteroid. So every time the loop is called, a new asteroid will be created. And then the second thing we'll do is remove our asteroids. So to remove the asteroids, we're going to look at the asteroids table where we've been storing them. And so we're going to iterate through the asteroid table starting at the high number of the asteroids down to the first. So we're going to use a for loop. For I equals the number of asteroids in the asteroid table, or the number of rows in the table, and down to the first, doing a -1 step. So starting at, let's say we got 50 on the screen, it'll start at 50 and count down to 1, and then set the this asteroid equal to asteroid table I, so that we're able to just simplify the process. If the asteroid is to the left, past -100, or to the right, past the display content width plus 100, or if it's off the top or bottom of the screen, either -100 or past the bottom, then we're going to remove the asteroid from the screen and remove it from the table as well, so that we don't have to look at it again as we're passing through the system. This is just a nice quick way of cleaning up your screen, clearing up memory, freeing up memory continuously as the game runs. At any one time, we shouldn't have too many asteroids on the screen, so this will go through very quickly with each loop. Now, since we have this as a game loop, this needs to be on some kind of a timer so that it's called regularly throughout the application. So we're going to go ahead and create a game loop timer and get the asteroid started on the screen. Okay, so let's dissect this command. We've associated the game loop timer variable with performing a specific function after so many milliseconds. That's the timer.perform with delay. Timer.perform with delay will call a function after so many milliseconds. In this case, 500 milliseconds or half a second. This will get called one time every half second and then create a new asteroid. So basically we have a new asteroid appearing on the screen every half second, as well as doing the cleanup on the screen. Now, since we're running at 60 frames per second, this means that every 30 frames we're going to be receiving a new asteroid. Of course, you can play with this number. If you want asteroids to appear faster, you can decrease it or increase it and go from there. Now, the 0 parameter tells Corona how many times the timer perform with delay function should be called every half second. 0 does not mean it's not going to be called at all. 0 is actually used for infinite. It will continue to call asteroids until the game is over or until the perform with delay is stopped. So every half second a new asteroid is going to appear on the screen. If you wanted the timer performed with delay only to fire 10 times, you would replace this 0 with 10. If you only wanted it to happen once, you would do 1. But in our case, we want this to continue to place asteroids on our screen until we tell it to stop or the game is over. So 0 tells it to continue doing it throughout the entire game. So let's check this, make sure everything is working the way we want it to. We have asteroids now on the screen, and they are colliding with each other. We are able to move our ship around the screen, dodging asteroids. Well, maybe. Well, we don't have a death situation set up yet, but we are able to move around the screen. We are able to collide with it. We'll take care of the collisions in our next section of part 2. We'll deal with collision handling for the shots fired and when an asteroid runs into a ship. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, be sure to leave it in the comments below. We have a lot more tutorials and lessons forthcoming. If you'd like to follow what's happening, you can follow us on Twitter at Dr. Brian Burton, or Facebook at Burton's Media Group, or follow us on our website, burtonsmediagroup.com. If you'd like notification through YouTube, hit the like or subscribe button.